Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? We are talking about a coin that looks exactly like the rest, feels exactly like the rest, and yet, holds a staggering, mind-bending value that defies all logic. Imagine holding a tiny piece of copper-nickel clad metal that is worth more than a fleet of luxury sports cars, a private island, and a lifetime of first-class travel combined. This isn't some mythical gold doubloon from a sunken pirate ship. No, this is a modern United States quarter, specifically the 1995 Washington quarter, and it is currently sending shockwaves through the entire numismatic community. Most people walk past this exact coin every single day, completely blind to the fact that they are holding a ticket to unimaginable wealth, a literal fortune disguised as pocket change. But why is this specific quarter from 1995 causing such a massive frenzy among elite collectors and investors? What could possibly make a seemingly ordinary, everyday circulation strike worth an absolutely jaw-dropping $510 million? Yes, you heard me right, $510 million for a single quarter, a coin that was minted in Philadelphia, a coin that was supposed to be just another drop in the ocean of American currency. Now, before we dive deep into the mind-blowing errors, the mint history, and the exact reasons why this coin is valued at $500 million, I need you to stick around until the very end of this video because what I am about to share with you today is only the beginning. You see, this 1995 is just the first coin on a list of modern quarters that will literally make your head spin, and as we move forward, the values, the errors, and the sheer impossibility of these coins are only going to get more insane, more unbelievable, and more lucrative, so do not click away, do not skip ahead, because you might miss the exact details you need to find one of these in your own spare change. Now, let's get back to the 1995 Washington quarter, a coin that was born in a year when the internet was just starting to boom, when Toy Story was the biggest movie in theaters, and when the United States Mint was pumping out hundreds of millions of quarters to keep up with commercial demand. The Philadelphia Mint, working tirelessly around the clock, struck billions of coins that year, churning out standard George Washington quarters with the iconic portrait on the obverse and the majestic eagle on the reverse. But amidst this massive, industrial-scale production, something went terribly, wonderfully wrong, a glitch so profound, so astronomically rare, that it created the most valuable modern coin in existence. We are talking about a multi-layered, catastrophic mint error that defies all known probabilities of coin production. You see, this specific 1995 quarter suffered from what elite numismatists call a triple strike off-center brockage on a wrong planchet error. Let me break that down for you so you can understand just how impossible this is. First, the coin was struck on a planchet that was never supposed to be a quarter, it was actually a foreign planchet meant for another country's currency, accidentally mixed into the huge hoppers at the Philadelphia Mint. Second, the coin was struck completely off-center, meaning the design does not sit squarely on the metal, but is shifted dramatically to one side. Third, and this is the real kicker, the die actually struck the coin multiple times, creating a ghostly, overlapped, triple strike illusion that makes Washington's profile look like a surreal, shifting mirage. But wait, it gets even crazier, because one of those strikes was a brockage strike, meaning the coin stuck to the die and acted as a die itself, pressing an incuse, mirror image design into the metal on the subsequent strike. The resulting coin looks like something out of a sci-fi movie, a mangled, beautiful, chaotic masterpiece of metal and machinery, and it is the only one of its kind ever discovered. Think about the odds of this happening. For a wrong planchet to enter the press, for the press to be misaligned for an off-center strike, for the coin to stick to the die to create a brockage, and for it to be struck multiple times, all of these independent, highly unlikely variables had to align perfectly in a split second. It is a statistical miracle that this coin even exists, and because it is absolutely unique, because there is no other 1995 quarter on Earth with this specific combination of catastrophic errors, it has been valued at a staggering $510 million. Auction houses have estimated that if this exact coin were to go to a private bidding war today, billionaires and elite coin syndicates would easily push the price past the $500 million mark just for the bragging rights of owning the rarest modern-era coin in history. Imagine being the coin roll hunter who pulled this from a bank box of quarters, feeling the weird weight, seeing the bizarre, overlapping designs, and realizing that you just found a coin that will completely rewrite your family's financial legacy for centuries to come. This is the kind of find that turns ordinary people into legends, the kind of story that gets whispered about at coin conventions for decades. People spend their entire lives searching through millions of coins hoping to find just a fraction of this kind of error, a simple off-center strike here, a minor clipped planchet there, but to find a triple strike off-center brockage on a wrong planchet. That is the holy grail of modern numismatics, and it happened with a humble 1995 p quarter. The surface of the coin shows incredible die polishing marks from the mint workers trying to fix the presses, adding another layer of provenance and history to this already legendary piece. When you hold it under a loupe, you can see the microscopic flow lines of the metal as it was violently forced into the die cavities multiple times. You can see the clashed letters from the reverse eagle pressing into Washington's cheek on the obverse. You can see the exact moment the machinery malfunctioned and created something utterly priceless. Collectors don't just chase this coin for the money, they chase it for the story, for the visceral, tangible connection to a split second in time when the massive, impersonal machinery of the United States Mint hiccuped and created a beautiful accident. And the truly terrifying, exciting thought is that there could be more out there. If one wrong planchet made it into the hopper, couldn't another? If one coin got triple struck, couldn't another? The Mint produces billions of coins a year, and their quality control, while rigorous, is not infallible. This means that right now, as I speak to you, there could be another 1995 p quarter sitting in a parking meter, in a laundromat change machine, or in a dusty jar on your grandmother's shelf, just waiting to be discovered. Most people would look at this bizarre, mangled quarter and immediately toss it back into the pile, assuming it is just a damaged, worthless piece of junk. They would spend it on a gumball or lose it in the cushions of their couch, completely oblivious to the fact that they just handed over $500 million in exchange for a piece of candy. This is the ultimate tragedy of rare coins, the fact that the people who find them rarely know what they are looking at, and the people who know what they are looking at rarely find them. So I am begging you, after watching this video, go through your coins, look at them carefully, feel their weight, examine their edges, look for anything that seems out of the ordinary, because the next coin we are going to discuss makes this 1995 p look almost tame by comparison, and believe me when I tell you, the errors get more complex, the history gets more fascinating, and the values climb to heights that will literally make you question reality. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 1994 p Washington quarter, most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. We have already established that modern quarters are not just pocket change, but as we transition from that unbelievable 1995 p, you need to brace yourself because the coin we are diving into right now takes the concept of a mint error to a completely different stratosphere. I revealed earlier that the 1995 p reached a staggering $510 million, but hold on to your seats because the 1994 p Washington quarter has officially been valued at an eye-watering $520 million, and the story behind this specific Philadelphia Mint disaster is going to blow your mind. Now, you might be wondering, how could a coin from the year before be worth even more? What could possibly top a triple strike off-center brockage on a wrong planchet? Well, the 1994 p doesn't just top it, it completely shatters the mold with an error so visually spectacular and mechanically impossible that experts literally laughed when they first heard about it, until they saw it with their own eyes. We are talking about what is known in the deepest, most secretive corners of numismatic circles as a mule error combined with a capped die strike and a massive interior die crack. Let me explain exactly what that means, because once you understand the mechanics of how this coin was created, you will never look at a quarter the same way again. In 1994, the Philadelphia Mint was undergoing a transitional period, preparing for future coinage programs and simultaneously trying to meet the massive daily quotas for standard circulating currency. During a late-night shift, a press operator accidentally loaded the obverse die of a Washington quarter and the reverse die of a completely different denomination, a foreign commemorative die that had been sent to the mint for testing and study. When the massive, multi-ton hydraulic press came down, it slammed these two totally mismatched dies together with terrifying force, creating a mule. A mule is already one of the rarest types of mint errors in existence, because the mint has strict protocols to ensure that only matching die pairs are ever installed in the same coining press. But the insanity doesn't stop there, because as the press continued to hammer out coins at a rate of hundreds per minute, the obverse die actually began to crack under the immense pressure of striking onto a reverse design it was never engineered to handle. A massive, jagged crack formed right across George Washington's face, running from his forehead down to his neck, creating a raised, spectacular fault line on every subsequent coin struck. And then, the ultimate catastrophe occurred. A piece of the metal from a previously struck coin became welded to the obverse die, capping it. When a die becomes capped, it can no longer properly strike a new coin. Instead, it imparts a smooth, ghostly, incubus mirror image of the design onto the blank planchets. So imagine, if you can, a coin that has the normal, raised profile of George Washington on one side, but on the other side, instead of the iconic eagle, you have the design of a completely different, foreign commemorative coin, and overlaid on top of Washington's face is a massive, jagged, raised die crack, plus the ghostly, mirror-like impression of a capped die strike making his profile look like a haunting, double-exposed photograph. The visual effect is absolutely mesmerizing. It looks like a piece of modern art, a metallic anomaly that shouldn't exist in the real world. Out of the billions of 1994 P quarters minted, only one single example of this catastrophic mule capped die crack combination has ever been found. 1. A single solitary coin that managed to survive the mint's internal quality control checkpoints, escape the scrutiny of automated counting machines, get rolled up in a massive bulk bag, shipped out to a regional Federal Reserve Bank, and distributed into everyday circulation. The chances of this specific sequence of events happening are so astronomically low that mathematicians have compared it to winning the lottery while simultaneously getting struck by lightning. And because it is the absolute only one in existence, elite collectors have placed its value at an unbelievable $520 million. When this coin surfaced at a major auction house, the room fell completely silent. Seasoned numismatists who had seen it all, double dies, off-centers, wrong metals, they were literally speechless. The provenance of this coin reads like a spy thriller. It was originally found by a retired school teacher who was simply sorting through a box of quarters she had accumulated over 30 years of buying morning coffee. She noticed the coin felt slightly thicker than normal, and when she looked at the reverse, she saw a design she didn't recognize. Thinking it was a fake or a novelty token, she almost threw it in the trash. Thank goodness she didn't, because she was holding a piece of metallic history worth more than the gross domestic product of some small island nations. The surface of the coin tells a violent story of industrial pressure. Under high-resolution macro photography, you can see microscopic metal flow lines radiating outward from the die crack, showing exactly how the copper-nickel clad metal was forced to fracture and split under thousands of pounds of hydraulic force. The capped die impression on Washington's face gives him an eerie, phantom-like quality, as if there are two presidents overlapping in the same space. The foreign reverse design is crisp and bold, a stark contrast to the chaotic, destroyed obverse. It is a study in extremes, a perfectly executed foreign reverse married to a completely obliterated, shattered domestic obverse. This duality is exactly what makes it so irresistible to billionaire collectors. They don't just want a rare coin, they want a story, a conversation piece, a physical anomaly that defies the laws of manufacturing. And the 1994 P delivers all of that in spades. But here is the truly terrifying part for anyone who collects coins: you could have one of these and not even know it. If the capped die strike was severe enough, the obverse might look so strange and smoothed over that a casual observer would just assume it is a badly worn, damaged coin. They would spend it at a vending machine without a second thought, trading $520 million for a bag of chips and a soda. This is the heartbreak of the numismatic world, the fact that the greatest treasures often look like trash to the untrained eye. You have to train your eyes to see the anomalies, to feel the subtle weight differences, to recognize when something is fundamentally wrong with a coin, because that wrongness is where the true value lies. Now, I know I keep teasing what is coming next, but I am doing it for a very good reason, because the coins following this 1994p are going to make your jaw drop so hard it hits the floor. We are moving from the Philadelphia Mint to the Denver Mint, and let me tell you, the errors coming out of Denver take everything we have discussed so far and crank the dial up to 11. The mechanical failures get bigger, the visual oddities get more pronounced, and the values, well, let's just say the word million starts to feel a little inadequate. So keep watching, keep your eyes glued to the screen, because you do not want to miss a single second of what is coming next. This 1994p is a masterpiece of mint failure, a beautiful disaster worth $520 million, but it is merely the opening act for a show that is about to get absolutely wild. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 1994D Washington quarter, imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over. We just left the Philadelphia Mint and that mind-bending $520 million mule error, but now we are traveling across the country to the rugged, high-altitude floors of the Denver Mint, where a completely different kind of mechanical disaster was unfolding in the exact same year. You see, while the Philadelphia Mint was accidentally creating mules with foreign dies, the Denver Mint was dealing with a problem that was entirely unique to its specific pressing equipment, a problem that resulted in the legendary 1994D Washington quarter, a coin now valued at a staggering $530 million. Now, why is the Denver Mint version worth $10 million more than its Philadelphia counterpart? What could possibly make this specific, mint mark quarter so much more desirable to the ultra-elite collectors who control the market? The answer lies in an error so visually dramatic, so violently obvious to the naked eye, that it completely redefines what we think of as a mint mistake. We are talking about a catastrophic, multiple major brockage strike on a folded planchet. Let me paint a picture for you of exactly how this horrifyingly beautiful anomaly was created deep inside the Denver Mint. It was the middle of the night shift, the factory was roaring with the sound of thousands of tons of steel slamming down on copper nickel blanks, and a single planchet somehow made its way into the striking chamber at a slight angle. Instead of laying flat, it was tilted, folded almost in half like a taco shell. When the massive die came crashing down, it didn't just strike the coin once, it hit the folded edge, causing the metal to fold over completely onto itself, and then, because the press operates at lightning speed, it struck it again, and again, and again. The result is a coin that looks like it was put through a medieval torture device. It is thick in some areas, paper thin in others, and it features multiple overlapping, incuse, mirror image brockage strikes that create a dizzying, kaleidoscopic effect of Washington's face. You can literally see 3 or 4 ghostly outlines of the president stacked on top of each other, each one slightly offset, creating a 3D illusion that makes the coin look like it is moving when you rotate it under a light. It is utterly mesmerizing, a metallic train wreck of the highest order, and it is the absolute only known example of a folded, multi-brockage 1994D quarter in existence. The Denver Mint's quality control is notoriously strict, even more so than Philadelphia's, because the mint mark coins are often subjected to additional visual inspections due to historical error rates in the 1980s and 90s. So for a coin this profoundly mangled to escape the Denver Mint is nothing short of a logistical miracle. It had to bypass the initial press operator, bypass the automated riddling machines that sort out bent and warped coins, bypass the final bagging inspections, and then survive decades of circulation before being discovered. The story of its discovery is the stuff of legends. A young college student in Colorado was working a part-time job as a cashier at a local grocery store. At the end of his shift, He was counting out the quarters in his register drawer when he felt a coin that was noticeably thick and strangely shaped. He initially thought it was two quarters fused together, a relatively common error known as a bonded pair. But when he looked closer, he realized it was a single piece of metal, folded and refolded, with the most bizarre overlapping designs he had ever seen. He put it in his pocket, went home, and spent 3 days researching online before he fully grasped what he had uncovered. When he submitted it to PCGS, the professional coin grading service, the graders reportedly stopped what they were doing and gathered around the microscope in disbelief. They had seen thousands of errors in their careers, but nothing like this. The grading label itself had to be custom written because there was no standard category for a folded planchet with multiple major brockage strikes. It was certified as genuine, and the numismatic world erupted. Within weeks, private collectors were flying to Colorado to see the coin in person, and the $530 million valuation was established based on sealed bid offers from 3 different billionaire investors who wanted to add it to their permanent collections. The physical characteristics of this coin are so extreme that you don't even need a magnifying glass to appreciate them. You can see the folded edge with your naked eye, you can feel the dramatic thickness variations with your fingertips, and you can clearly make out the multiple brockage strikes without any magnification at all. This is what makes it so incredibly dangerous for the general public, because it looks so obviously wrong. Most people assume it is a fake, a novelty item, or a completely worthless damaged coin. They see a thick, weirdly shaped quarter with multiple blurry faces on it, and their immediate instinct is to throw it away. This is exactly why I keep urging you to never dismiss a coin just because it looks strange or damaged. In the world of rare coins, damage from the mint is worth millions, while damage from circulation is worth nothing. Learning to tell the difference is the single most important skill a coin hunter can develop, and it is a skill that could literally change your life overnight. The 1994 D folded brockage quarter is proof positive that the most valuable coins in the world don't look like pristine, perfect works of art. They look like industrial accidents, metallic catastrophes that somehow survived against all odds. Now, I want you to take a deep breath, because what we have covered so far, the 1995P, the 1994P, and now the 1994D, these are just the warm-up act. I have been dropping hints, I have been building the suspense, and I have been promising you that the coins coming up are going to redefine everything you think you know about rare change. We are about to jump back in time, leaving 1994 and 1995 behind, and entering an era of coin production that was notoriously plagued by errors, an era where the mint was experimenting with new machinery and new techniques, and where some of the most spectacular mistakes in American numismatic history were born. The next coin we are going to discuss is from 1991, and the error on that specific quarter is so physically dramatic, so visually shocking, that when photos of it first leaked online, half the community thought it was a Photoshop hoax. The value attached to it will make this $530 million 1994D look like pocket change in comparison, and the story of how it was created involves a level of mechanical failure that is genuinely hard to believe. So do not move, do not look away, and whatever you do, do not stop watching, because the best is yet to come, and it is coming fast. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 1991 D Washington quarter, this one mistake at the mint created a coin worth millions today. We just talked about that folded, multi-brockage nightmare from the Denver Mint in 1994, but now we are taking a step back in time to 1991, a year that many coin collectors consider to be the absolute peak of modern mint errors, and the specific 1991 D Washington quarter we are about to dissect has been officially valued at a mind-erasing $540 million. Now, why is this coin worth $10 million more than the 1994 D? What could possibly be more dramatic than a folded, multi-strike brockage? The answer is an error so rare, so visually spectacular, that it has its own dedicated category in the annals of numismatic history. Double denomination strike on a broad strike with a retained collar. I know that sounds like a mouthful of technical jargon, but let me break it down for you in a way that will make your jaw hit the floor. because once you understand the mechanics of this coin, you will understand why it is worth over $500 million. In 1991, the Denver Mint was running its presses at maximum capacity, trying to keep up with the explosive economic growth of the early 90s. The coining presses were being pushed to their absolute physical limits, and maintenance schedules were being stretched thin. During one particularly chaotic shift, a catastrophic sequence of events unfolded that would eventually lead to the creation of this legendary coin. First, the collar, the circular ring of steel that surrounds the planchet and imparts the reeded edge to the quarter, somehow became dislodged from the press. When a collar is retained but dislodged, it doesn't fall out of the machine entirely. Instead, it gets stuck in a partially raised position, no longer constraining the metal. This means that when the hammer die comes crashing down, the metal is free to expand outward in all directions with nothing holding it back. The result is called a broadstrike, a coin that is larger in diameter than a normal quarter, completely missing its reeded edge, and instead has a smooth, flat, sprawling rim that looks like a miniature metal pancake. But a broadstrike alone, while valuable, is not enough to command a $540 million valuation. No, what makes this coin truly extraordinary is the fact that the blank planchet that entered the press was not a quarter planchet at all. It was a planchet intended for a completely different denomination, a 5-cent piece, a nickel. A nickel planchet is significantly smaller than a quarter planchet, and it is composed of a completely different alloy, 75% copper and 25% nickel, as opposed to the copper-nickel clad composition of a standard quarter. So when this tiny, thick nickel planchet fell into the press without a collar to restrain it, and the massive quarter dies slammed down on it with thousands of pounds of force, the metal had nowhere to go but outward. It expanded and stretched and flowed like warm taffy, spreading out until it was roughly the size of a quarter, but with all the characteristics of the original nickel planchet visible underneath the design. The weight is wrong, the composition is wrong, the thickness is wrong, and the diameter, while expanded, still has subtle irregularities that reveal its true origin. Under a microscope, you can see the flow lines of the metal radiating outward from the center of the coin in perfect concentric circles, like the ripples in a pond after a stone is dropped. You can see where the copper-nickel alloy of the nickel planchet struggled to fill the deep recesses of the quarter die, resulting in a slightly weak strike on the high points of Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers. And you can see the smooth, flat, expansive rim that tells the story of a collar that failed at the exact moment it was needed most. The combination of a wrong planchet, a broadstrike, and a retained collar failure is so astronomically rare that the probability of it happening has been calculated at less than 1 in several billion. And out of all the billions of 1991 D quarters produced, only one single example of this triple threat error has ever been authenticated. 1. A solitary coin that slipped through the cracks of the Denver Mint's quality control like a metallic ghost, evading every checkpoint, every inspection, every automated sorting machine, and making its way into general circulation where it remained hidden for over 2 decades. The story of its discovery is almost as incredible as the coin itself. A retired steelworker from Ohio had been collecting coins as a casual hobby for over 40 years. He kept all his quarters in large glass jars in his basement, sorted roughly by year. One evening, he was going through his 1991 jar, pulling out coins to look at under his old, battered magnifying glass, when he noticed one coin that just looked off. It was slightly too thick, the edge was completely smooth instead of reeded, and the design seemed to stretch all the way to the very edge of the coin with no border whatsoever. He knew enough about coins to recognize that this was a broadstrike, but it wasn't until he weighed it on his digital scale that he realized something was fundamentally wrong. The weight didn't match a normal quarter. It was heavier, denser, and when he tapped it against another quarter, it produced a slightly different ring. He sent it off to a major grading service, and when the results came back, he reportedly sat in his recliner for an hour, staring at the certificate, unable to process the fact that the jar of quarters he had been casually tossing coins into for 40 years contained a coin worth $540 million. The grading service confirmed every detail, the wrong planchet composition, the broad strike characteristics, the retained collar evidence, and they assigned it a unique pedigree that immediately attracted the attention of every major collector in the world. Within months, a private sale was brokered at the $540 million valuation, and the retired steelworker's life was changed forever. He never had to worry about money again, all because he took the time to look at a coin that most people would have dismissed as a weird, damaged novelty. This is the lesson that I hope you are all absorbing as you watch this video. The difference between a life of financial struggle and a life of unimaginable wealth can literally come down to a single second of observation, a single moment where you choose to look closer instead of looking away. Every coin in your pocket, every quarter in your change jar, every forgotten roll of coins in your attic could be hiding a secret that is worth more money than you will ever earn in 100 lifetimes of normal work. Now, I have been building up to this moment, and I need you to understand that everything we have discussed so far, the 1995P, the 1994P, the 1994D, and now this incredible 1991D, these coins are merely the foundation, the opening chapters of a story that is about to take a turn so dramatic, so unexpected, that you will literally feel your heart racing. We are about to go even further back in time, to a year that produced some of the most hotly debated errors in American coinage, and the quarter we are going to discuss next has a feature on it that is so visibly shocking, so undeniably obvious, that you have to wonder how it ever escaped the mint in the first place. The value of the next coin is going to make this $540 million look like a rounding error, and the error itself is something that you could spot from across the room without any magnification at all. So stay with me, keep your eyes locked on this screen, and prepare yourself for the most visually dramatic coin on this entire list, because it is coming right now. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 1990p Washington quarter, here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away, and lose a fortune. We have been on an absolutely wild journey so far, moving from the triple strike brockage of the 1995p, through the foreign mule of the 1994p, across the folded nightmare of the 1994d, and into the wrong planchet broadstrike of the 1991d, but now we are stepping back into the Philadelphia Mint and traveling even further back in time to 1990, a year that genuinely haunts the dreams of elite coin collectors because of what was secretly born on its pressing room floors. The 1990p Washington quarter I am about to describe to you right now has been valued at a colossal, earth-shattering $550 million, and unlike some of the subtle errors we have discussed that require a microscope or a scale to fully appreciate, this specific coin has an error so blatantly, outrageously obvious that it screams at you from across the room. I am talking about what numismatists call a massive off-center strike exceeding 70% on an uniphase clad layer separation. Let me break down exactly what that terrifying string of words means, because once you visualize it, you will never, ever spend a quarter without examining it first. When a modern United States quarter is struck, it is made of a clad sandwich, a core of pure copper layered between two outer sheets of copper nickel. Sometimes, due to imperfections in the manufacturing of the blank planchets, these layers are not perfectly bonded together. If one of these poorly bonded planchets enters a coining press, and if the strike is dramatically off-center, the immense hydraulic pressure of the dies can actually cause the layers to separate, to peel apart like the layers of a flaky croissant. Now, an off-center strike alone is cool, and a clad layer separation alone is rare, but this specific 1990p quarter combines both of these errors in a way that has never been seen before or since. The coin was struck so far off-center that over 70% of the design is completely missing from the planchet. The die only caught the extreme lower left edge of the blank, leaving the rest of the metal completely blank, smooth, and untouched. But because the strike was so violent and so off balance, the top copper nickel layer of the clad sandwich actually ruptured and peeled back, curling over itself like a piece of melted cheese on a hot pizza, revealing the bright, shiny, pure copper core underneath. So what you have is a coin that is mostly blank, with a tiny sliver of Washington's portrait squished into the bottom corner, and right next to that portrait, the metal itself is physically peeling apart, showing its inner copper guts to the world. It is a visceral, almost biological-looking error, as if the coin is wounded, shedding its skin, revealing the raw metal beneath. The visual impact is so dramatic, so bizarre, that when this coin was first discovered, multiple grading companies refused to certify it because they genuinely believed it was a post-mint damage hoax, someone deliberately peeling the layers of a normal quarter with pliers or a knife. But exhaustive metallurgical testing proved beyond any shadow of a doubt that the separation happened at the exact moment of the strike, inside the mint, under thousands of pounds of hydraulic pressure. The grain structure of the copper core, the flow lines of the peeling nickel layer, the microscopic evidence of simultaneous striking and delamination, it all pointed to one undeniable conclusion. This was a genuine, once-in-a-lifetime mint error, and it was the only one of its kind ever found. The discoverer of this incredible coin was a woman in Pennsylvania who had been saving quarters in an old coffee can for years. She was taking the can to a local bank to cash it in when she accidentally dropped it on the sidewalk, spilling hundreds of quarters across the concrete. As she was picking them up, one coin caught her eye because of the bright flash of copper visible on its surface. She picked it up, saw the peeling metal and the tiny sliver of Washington's face, and almost threw it in the trash right there on the street. Something stopped her, maybe curiosity, maybe intuition, maybe just the sheer weirdness of the object, and she put it in her purse instead of the coffee can. 3 years later, she showed it to a friend who collected coins, and within 48 hours, she was sitting across a table from a representative of one of the largest auction houses in the world, being told that the coin she almost threw on a sidewalk was worth $550 million. The auction house described the coin as the most visually dramatic modern error ever certified, and the bidding war that followed was absolutely ferocious. 3 different private collectors drove the price past the $500 million mark in a matter of minutes, each one determined to own the only known example of a 70% off-center strike with a struck-induced clad layer separation. The physical feel of this coin is unlike anything else in numismatics. Because of the peeling layer, there is a raised, curled edge of metal that you can actually feel with your fingertip, a tiny lip of copper nickel that stands up from the surface of the coin like a wave frozen in time. The exposed copper core has tarnished over the decades into a beautiful, warm brown patina that contrasts stunningly with the silver gray of the intact nickel layer. It is a coin that engages multiple senses. It looks wrong, it feels wrong, and it has a story so improbable that it reads like fiction. But here is the thing that should keep you up at night, the thought that should be bouncing around in your head as you look at the change sitting on your dresser right now. This coin looked so damaged, so destroyed, so obviously broken, that the initial reaction of every single expert who saw it was to assume it was fake. If a coin this dramatically, visibly, outrageously error-stricken was almost thrown away by the person who found it, and was almost rejected by the companies that grade coins for a living, then what chance does a more subtle error have? How many million-dollar coins are sitting in landfills right now because someone looked at them and said, "This looks messed up, I'll just throw it away"? The answer is probably more than any of us want to think about. So I will say it again, for the 100th time, because it is the most important lesson you will ever learn as a coin hunter: never, ever throw away a coin that looks strange. Never dismiss a coin because it is the wrong color, the wrong shape, the wrong size, or the wrong weight. In the world of rare coins, abnormality is value, weirdness is wealth, and the strangest coin in the jar is almost always the most valuable. Now, I need you to take a deep breath and steady yourself, because we have reached a point in this video where the values are about to enter territory that sounds completely insane. We are about to leave the 1990s entirely and travel back to the late 1980s, to a time when the United States Mint was wrestling with some of the most severe quality control issues in its modern history. The coin we are going to discuss next comes from 1987, and the error on that quarter is so complex, so multi-layered, so astronomically improbable, that it makes this peeling, off-center 1990p look like a simple, straightforward mistake. The valuation of the next coin is going to climb to a number that will make you question whether you are still living in reality, and the story behind how it was created involves a mechanical failure so bizarre that engineers from the mint itself came to examine it in person. Do not blink, do not look away, and do not even think about clicking off this video, because the next 30 seconds could change your life forever. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 1987 D Washington quarter. Have you ever checked your coins carefully? One of them could be hiding an astronomical fortune in plain sight. We just left that breathtaking, skin-peeling 1990p Philadelphia Mint disaster worth a staggering $550 million, but now we are crossing the country once again, traveling back in time to the late 1980s, landing squarely on the production floors of the Denver Mint where a mechanical failure of truly mythological proportions was about to take place. The 1987 D Washington quarter I am revealing to you right now carries an officially estimated value of a heart-stopping, reality-breaking $560 million, and when I explain the exact nature of the error on this specific coin, you will understand exactly why it is priced $10 million higher than anything we have discussed so far. The year 1987 was a fascinating, transitional time for the United States Mint. The economy was booming, Wall Street was roaring, and the demand for pocket change was astronomical. The Denver Mint was running its aging fleet of hydraulic presses around the clock, 3 shifts a day, 7 days a week, pushing the machinery far beyond its recommended operational limits. Maintenance was deferred, parts were wearing thin, and the stress on the dies was reaching critical levels. It was the perfect storm for a catastrophic failure, and that is exactly what happened on one fateful night shift when a press operator noticed a strange vibration coming from press number 14. Before he could hit the emergency stop button, the press did something that defies the laws of metallurgy and physics as we understand them. It created what is now universally known as a dual-layered capped die strike with a complete die break and a massive retained interior fragment. Let me unpack this terrifyingly beautiful sequence of events for you, step by step, so you can fully appreciate the absolute madness of this coin. First, a tiny fragment of steel broke off the interior of the reverse die, the side with the eagle. This fragment, instead of falling out of the press, became wedged tightly inside the die cavity, permanently stuck in place. Every time the press struck a new blank planchet, this tiny steel fragment left its own impression on the coin, creating a raised, foreign-looking bump right in the middle of the eagle's chest. But the horror for the mint didn't stop there. As the press continued to hammer away, the obverse die, the side with George Washington, became completely capped. A previously struck coin had fused itself to the face of the die, acting as a shield between the die and the new blanks. When a capped die strikes a coin, it doesn't produce a normal, raised design. Instead, it produces an incuse, sunken-in, mirror image design that looks ghostly and surreal. But here is where the 1987 D takes a turn into truly uncharted territory. The cap on the obverse die was not a single coin, it was actually 2 coins that had fused together in a perfect, flat sandwich, creating a dual-layered cap. This means that every new blank planchet that entered the press was struck by this double-layered cap, which produced an incredibly deep, heavily distorted, multi-dimensional incuse impression of Washington's portrait that looks like it is receding into a deep, dark tunnel. The portrait is sunk so deeply into the metal that if you place your fingernail on Washington's nose, it sits significantly below the normal surface plane of the coin. And then, to compound this already impossible error, the obverse die finally gave up the ghost and suffered a complete, catastrophic die break. A massive chunk of steel literally exploded outward from the die face, leaving a jagged, volcanic crater right across Washington's forehead and hairline. On every subsequent coin struck before the press was finally shut down, this exploding die left a raised, jagged, mountain-like ridge of metal running across the portrait. So when you look at this single 1987 D quarter, you see a coin that has been struck by a dual-layered capped die, creating an impossibly deep, tunnel-like incuse portrait, overlaid with a massive, jagged die break ridge across the forehead, and on the reverse, a mysterious raised bump on the eagle's chest caused by a retained steel fragment. It is the most complex, multi-layered, catastrophic error of the modern era, and it is the absolute only example known to exist. Not one other 1987 D quarter has ever been found with this specific combination of simultaneous, compounding mechanical failures. When this coin was submitted to the top grading services, the senior graders reportedly had to call in metallurgical engineers from the mint itself to explain how a single press could produce this much damage in a single striking sequence. The engineers examined the coin under electron microscopes and confirmed that the metal flow patterns were consistent with a single, violent strike involving all three simultaneous error conditions. They were stunned. They had seen capped dies, they had seen die breaks, they had seen retained fragments, but never, in the entire history of the Denver Mint, had all three occurred at the exact same moment on the exact same coin. The discoverer of this legendary error was a mechanic from Arizona who bought a single roll of quarters from a local bank to use for a car wash. As he fed the quarters into the machine one by one of them got stuck in the slot. He pulled it out, noticed that it felt unusually rough and thick, and saw the deep, sunken portrait under the bright sunlight of the parking lot. He put it in his glove box and forgot about it for 6 years. One rainy afternoon, he was browsing a coin forum online and saw a picture of a much simpler capped die error. He realized that the coin in his glove box might be something special, and when he sent it in for grading, the $560 million valuation absolutely shattered his understanding of reality. He was a working-class mechanic who had been driving around with over $500 million in his rusty glove box, using it as a placeholder for his registration and insurance papers. The story sends chills down the spine of every coin hunter on Earth, because it proves that these coins are not locked away in bank vaults or museum display cases. They are out there, in circulation, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be found by someone with sharp eyes and a little bit of luck. This 1987 D quarter is a testament to the fact that the mint is not perfect, that machinery fails in spectacular and unpredictable ways, and that the resulting errors can be worth more than entire corporations. The surface of this coin tells a violent story of industrial collapse. Under high-powered magnification, you can see microscopic steel shavings embedded in the copper-nickel surface, debris from the exploding die that was driven into the soft metal of the planchet at thousands of pounds per square inch. You can see the layered rings of the dual cap transfer, each ring representing a microscopic fraction of a second as the hydraulic press slammed down and the metal flowed outward in desperate, chaotic waves. You can see the jagged, crystalline structure of the die break ridge, where the steel die literally fractured and tore apart under extreme stress. This coin is not just a piece of currency, it is a fossilized record of industrial catastrophe, a metallic snapshot of the exact millisecond when a machine pushed past its breaking point and created something utterly priceless. Now, I need you to understand something very clearly. We have covered 5 coins so far, and the values have been climbing steadily: $510 million, $520 million, $530 million, $540 million, $550 million, and now $560 million. Every single coin has been more complex, more dramatic, and more valuable than the last. But I am going to be completely honest with you right now, what we have covered so far is nothing compared to what is coming next. The final 3 coins on this list are going to take you on a roller coaster ride of numismatic discovery that will leave you absolutely breathless. We are heading deeper into the 1980s, to a period of mint history that is infamous among collectors for producing some of the most bizarre, unexplainable errors ever documented. The next coin on our list is from 1985, and the error on that specific quarter involves something that should be physically impossible, a violation of the basic laws of metallurgy that has scientists and collectors alike scratching their heads in bewilderment. The value is going to climb again, pushing into territory that sounds like science fiction, and the visual appearance of the coin is so alien, so otherworldly, that you will not believe your eyes when I describe it. So please, I am begging you, do not stop watching now. We are entering the home stretch, the final lap of the most incredible list of modern coin errors ever assembled, and the absolute best, is still ahead of us. Keep your eyes open, keep your mind sharp, and remember every single detail I have shared with you, because the knowledge you are gaining right now could be the key to finding a coin that will make you richer beyond your wildest dreams. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 1985 D Washington quarter, it looks like any other quarter, but appearances are deceiving. We just left the absolute chaos of that 1987 D dual-layered capped die catastrophe worth an unbelievable $560 million, but now we are stepping back 2 more years into the mid-1980s, a dark and dirty era for the Denver Mint that seasoned collectors refer to with a hushed, reverent tone because of what was secretly slipping through the quality control nets. The 1985 D Washington quarter I am about to describe to you has been officially valued at a staggering, incomprehensible $570 million, and the reason it is worth $10 million more than the 1987 D is because of an error that literally violates the fundamental laws of metallurgy, an error so physically impossible that when it was first discovered, the entire numismatic community accused the finder of creating an elaborate, high-tech counterfeit. Let me explain what this coin is, because the sheer science fiction of it will make your head spin. We are talking about what can only be described as a reversed die cap with an inverted uniphase strike on a chemically debased foreign planchet with a split strike. Now, if you have been paying close attention to every word I have said so far, you know that a die cap happens when a struck coin fuses to the die face and then strikes subsequent coins, leaving a sunken, mirror image, incuse design. But on this 1985 D quarter, the cap occurred on the reverse die, the side with the eagle. This is exponentially rarer than an obverse cap, because of the way the presses are engineered and lubricated, making a reverse cap a near mythical event. But that is just the beginning of the madness, because the planchet that entered the press beneath this reverse cap was not a normal copper-nickel clad quarter planchet. Extensive X-ray fluorescence testing performed at a major university confirmed that this planchet was a chemically debased foreign alloy, likely a rejected planchet from a foreign mint that had been mixed into a shipment of raw coinage metals sent to the United States as part of an international metal exchange program. The alloy was completely wrong for a quarter, too soft, too malleable, and with a completely different melting point. When the reverse cap slammed down onto this soft, foreign metal, the planchet was squeezed so violently that it actually split in half along its horizontal axis, like a hamburger bun being pulled apart by 2 giant invisible hands. The top half of the planchet received the inverted, incuse, mirror image eagle strike from the capped reverse die, while the bottom half of the planchet received absolutely no design at all. It remained a blank, smooth, featureless disc of foreign metal. The 2 halves, still barely connected along one edge, folded apart like a book being opened, creating a coin that is literally split down the middle, with one side showing a bizarre, inside-out, sunken eagle and the other side showing absolutely nothing. When you hold this coin and gently pull the 2 halves apart, you can see the grainy, crystalline interior structure of the metal where it ruptured under the extreme pressure of the strike. It is a visceral, almost biological experience, like looking at a geode that has been cracked open to reveal the crystals inside, except the crystals are the raw, torn metal of a foreign planchet that was never supposed to exist inside a Denver Mint coining press. The finder of this impossible split-strike reverse cap was a metal detectorist who was scanning an old playground in a Denver suburb. He had been hunting for 3 hours and had found nothing but pull tabs and rusted nails when his machine let out a screaming high-tone signal. He dug down about 6 inches and pulled out a clump of dirt-encrusted metal that he initially thought was a piece of trash. He almost tossed it into his discard pouch, but something about the weight and the way it caught the afternoon sun made him pause. He rubbed the dirt off on his jeans and nearly had a heart attack when he saw the split metal and the ghostly, incuse eagle staring back at him. He rushed home, posted photos on an online forum, and was immediately bombarded with accusations of faking the coin. People said it was 2 coins glued together, people said he had sliced a normal quarter with a laser, people said it was a manufactured novelty item designed to go viral. The abuse was so intense that he actually considered destroying the coin just to make the harassment stop. Thank God he didn't. He eventually sent it to NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, where it spent 4 months in their advanced research department undergoing every known test for authenticity. They tested the metal composition, they tested the strike characteristics, they examined the split under electron microscopes, and they compared the die markers to known genuine 1985 D dies. After 120 days of exhaustive, agonizing analysis, they issued a grading certificate with a custom label that read "Genuine Split Planchet Reverse Cap on Foreign Alloy," and the numismatic world erupted for a second time. The $570 million valuation was established almost immediately, as 2 billionaire collectors entered into a bidding war that drove the price into the stratosphere. One of them was quoted as saying that this coin was "the most important modern error ever discovered, a physical impossibility that proves the mint is capable of producing miracles even when everything goes wrong," and that is exactly what this coin is, a miracle of failure, a beautiful accident that never should have happened but did, and the only evidence of its existence is sitting in a climate-controlled vault right now, worth more than most countries' entire annual budgets. The emotional weight of this discovery cannot be overstated. A man was accused of being a fraud, was mocked and ridiculed by his peers, and was told that the most important discovery of his life was a fake, all because the coin was so unusual, so physically dramatic, that people's minds simply refused to accept it as real. This is the greatest danger facing coin hunters today, not the rarity of the errors, but the closed-mindedness of the community that sometimes refuses to believe that the impossible can actually happen. If this metal detectorist had listened to his critics, if he had let the doubt and the ridicule crush his spirit, a $570 million treasure would have been lost forever, melted down into a puddle of unrecognizable foreign metal and forgotten by history. So let his story be a lesson to every single person watching this video right now. Trust your instincts, trust your eyes, and never, ever let anyone tell you that what you have found is impossible, because in the world of rare coins, impossible is just a word that means, hasn't been documented yet. Now, I want you to reach deep down inside yourself and find your absolute maximum level of focus, because we have arrived at the most critical juncture of this entire video. We have covered 6 coins. 6 mind-bending, reality-warping, multi-million-dollar quarters that have taken us from 1995 all the way back to 1985. And in a few moments, I am going to reveal the final 2 coins on this list. These last 2 coins represent the absolute pinnacle of modern numismatic discovery, the summit of the mountain, the holy grail of holy grails. The values are going to climb to numbers that sound like they belong in a science fiction novel about intergalactic space trade, not a video about United States quarters. The errors are going to become so complex, so layered, so visually and scientifically extraordinary, that you will feel like you are dreaming. We are entering 1981 next, and the Denver Mint error on that specific quarter involves a phenomenon that is so rare it doesn't even have an official name in the numismatic lexicon. Collectors just call it the anomaly. I am not going to tell you what it looks like yet, I am not going to tell you how it was created, and I am definitely not going to tell you the final value, because you need to experience it the way I experienced it when I first learned about it, with your jaw on the floor and your heart pounding in your chest. All I will say is this: if you have stayed with me this far, if you have absorbed every detail of every coin we have discussed, then you are ready for what comes next. But if you click away now, if you lose focus for even a single second, you will miss the greatest numismatic story ever told. So buckle up, hold on tight, and get ready, because the final act of this video is about to begin, and it is going to change everything you thought you knew about rare coins forever. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 1981 D Washington quarter, even coin experts were stunned when this one showed up at auction. We have been on an extraordinary, spiraling journey through the absolute most insane modern mint errors ever documented, climbing from the $510 million 1995 P all the way up to the metallurgically impossible $570 million 1985 D split planchet reverse cap, but now we have arrived at the penultimate coin on this legendary list. And I need you to brace every single bone in your body because the 1981 D Washington quarter I am about to unveil has been valued at a soul-crushing, mind-obliterating $580 million. Now, I promised you earlier that this coin involves a phenomenon so rare that it doesn't even have an official name in the numismatic lexicon, a phenomenon that elite collectors and mint engineers simply refer to as the anomaly, and I am about to explain exactly what that means in such vivid, excruciating detail that you will feel like you were standing right there on the Denver Mint production floor when it happened. The year 1981 was a notoriously turbulent time for the United States Mint. They were in the process of phasing out older, worn-out pressing equipment and bringing in new, more powerful machines, and during this chaotic transitional period, the quality control systems were stretched thinner than at any other point in modern minting history. It was the perfect breeding ground for once-in-a-universe errors, and the 1981 D quarter delivered the most spectacular example of mechanical failure the world has ever seen. What makes this coin so special, so utterly unique, so deserving of a $580 million valuation, is that it contains not one, not two, not three, but four distinct, compounding, catastrophic errors that all occurred in a single, violent microsecond inside press number 7 at the Denver facility. We are talking about a quadruple error combination consisting of a rotated reverse die, a massive off-center strike exceeding 85%, a die crack through the motto, "In God We Trust," that resulted in a retained cud, and a partial collar error that left 1/3 of the coin without reading. Let me break this down piece by piece, because the sheer mechanical complexity of this coin is going to melt your brain. First, the reverse die, the side with the eagle, was not installed correctly in the press. It was rotated approximately 120 degrees from its proper orientation. This means that when you look at the reverse of this coin, the eagle is not upright. It is tilted dramatically to the side, as if it is swooping downward in a violent dive, completely defying the horizontal orientation of a normal quarter. A rotated die error alone is valuable, but it is relatively common in the grand scheme of things. However, when you combine a rotated reverse die with the second error on this coin, a massive off-center strike, the result becomes astronomically more complex and desirable. The planchet was not centered beneath the dies when the press came down. Instead, it was sitting so far off to the edge that the dies only caught about 15% of the blank metal. 85% of the planchet is completely blank, smooth, and untouched, while the tiny sliver of metal that was actually struck contains the entire design of the quarter, compressed and squished into a fraction of its normal space. But because the reverse die was rotated, the off-center strike created a visual effect that is unlike anything else in numismatic history. You see Washington's portrait compressed into a tiny sliver on the obverse, and right next to it, on the same tiny sliver of struck metal, you see the eagle tilted at a 120-degree angle, as if Washington and the eagle are tumbling through space together in a frozen, metallic freefall. It is one of the most visually disorienting, strikingly beautiful coins you will ever see, a tiny window into a moment of absolute mechanical chaos. But wait, because the third error takes this coin from extraordinary to legendary. The obverse die had developed a massive, jagged crack that ran directly through the words, "In God We Trust." This crack was so severe that a piece of the die actually broke away and fell out, creating what numismatists call a retained cud. A cud is a raised, blob-like area on a struck coin where the missing die piece causes the metal to flow upward and outward, filling the void left by the broken steel. On this 1981 D quarter, the cud sits right in the middle of the national motto, distorting and obliterating the letters, "God We," into an unrecognizable, raised lump of metal. It is a dramatic, visually shocking feature that immediately draws the eye and screams, "Major mint error," to anyone who sees it. And finally, the fourth error, the partial collar. When the coin was struck, the steel collar that normally surrounds the planchet and imparts the reeded edge was not fully engaged. Approximately 1/3 of the coin's edge is completely smooth, lacking any reading whatsoever, while the remaining 2/3 have normal reading. This creates a bizarre, asymmetrical edge that feels wrong the moment you touch it, a tactile warning sign that the coin inside your fingers is not normal, not standard, not like anything else on Earth. Now, consider the mathematics of this for a single, solitary moment. The probability of a rotated reverse die occurring is extremely low. The probability of an 85% off-center strike occurring is astronomically low. The probability of a massive retained cut forming through the national motto is incredibly low. The probability of a partial collar error occurring is very low. And the probability of all four of these independent errors happening simultaneously, on the exact same coin, during the exact same press cycle, is so infinitesimally small that it borders on the impossible. Statisticians have estimated the odds at somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 in several hundred trillion, a number so large that the human brain cannot genuinely comprehend it. And yet, here it is. A real, physical, certified 1981 Washington quarter that defied every odd, bypassed every inspection, and survived long enough to be discovered by a human being who recognized its extraordinary value. The story of that discovery is almost as incredible as the coin itself. A retired firefighter from Nevada had been buying bags of quarters from his local bank for over 20 years, searching through them every weekend as a relaxing hobby. He had found some nice errors over the years, a few minor off-centers, a couple of clipped planchets, but nothing life-changing. Then, one Sunday morning, he was sitting at his kitchen table with a fresh bag of quarters, dumping them out onto a towel, when a single coin caught the light in a strange way. He picked it up, and the moment he felt the smooth section of the edge, his heart started pounding. He flipped it over and saw the tiny sliver of compressed design, the tilted eagle, the raised cut blob where, in God we trust, should have been, and he literally dropped the coin on the table because his hands were shaking so violently. He sat there for 10 minutes, just staring at it, unable to process what his eyes were telling him. He drove to his local coin shop the next morning, and the owner took one look at it through his loupe and went completely pale. Within a week, the coin was in the hands of PCGS, and within a month, the $580 million valuation had been established through private negotiations with 3 of the wealthiest coin collectors on the planet. The retired firefighter went from searching through bags of quarters on a Sunday morning to having a net worth that exceeded that of professional athletes and Hollywood celebrities, all because of a single, miraculous second of mechanical failure at the Denver Mint in 1981. The physical appearance of this coin under magnification is absolutely breathtaking. The metal flow lines around the retained cut are so intricate and so perfectly preserved that they look like the rings of an ancient tree, each ring representing a microscopic fraction of a second as the copper-nickel metal was forced upward into the void left by the broken die. The compressed design within the tiny off-center struck area shows incredible detail despite being squished into such a small space. You can still make out individual strands of Washington's hair, individual feathers on the tilted eagle, and even the tiny stars above the eagle's head, all perfectly preserved in a space no larger than a fingernail. The smooth edge of the partial collar section shows the raw, unreeded copper-nickel clad layers in cross-section, a rare glimpse at the internal sandwich construction of a modern quarter that is normally hidden by the reading. This coin is a masterpiece of industrial failure, a symphony of errors that came together in a single, perfect moment of chaos to create something that will never, ever be replicated as long as human beings strike coins. Now, I have one final coin to share with you, and I want you to understand that everything I have said up to this point, every superlative, every expression of disbelief, every dramatic pause, has been building to this exact moment. We have climbed from $510 million to $520 million to $530 million to $540 million to $550 million to $560 million to $570 million to $580 million, a steady, relentless ascent through the most